Hi, this is 50% of the 50% podcast here. It's Aiden. Today, Connor and I are joined by a very special guest. Once again, Daniel Ade is back on the show, and today we're going to be reviewing Gridlock. It's going to be a good one. You can find Daniel on Twitter at @TheDanielAde. You can find him on YouTube at DanielIsWeird. And you can find his podcast, which he hosts with my co-host Connor. Yeah, it's my rival podcast. The For a Laugh podcast is available on YouTube and on Spotify and anywhere that you get your podcast. So be sure to go and give them a listen. Also, whilst you're there, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. That is the 50% Doctor Who podcast. And you can tweet at us on Twitter at 50Doctor. It's good. We like to talk on there, and there's some good interactions on there. So hit us up in those DMs. Anyways, I've stalled enough. On with today's episode. What at all made you be like, oh fuck, I want to do Gridlock?
Oh, have we started the episode already?
Yeah, we're just diving straight in these days.
Yes, Dave.
Well,
yes,
frankly, if we're gonna get into it straight away, I just think Gridlock is such a classic Russell episode.
Okay.
And honestly, watching it, it is.
I know, but it's so I have different opinions of it now. But when I was a kid, I didn't give a fuck about this episode. You know, it was just kind of there. So it's just
aren't those the episodes though that I'm supposed to come on? The ones that are kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But
well, traditionally,
it's a weird episode. How are we doing?
Right, you're saying it's not ridiculously shit that it should merit.
We'll have to drag you kicking and screaming to 42, Dan, so you can review that as well.
Yeah, no, 42 I'm keen, because 42 is just bad.
It's awful, yeah, legit.
That's gonna be.
But this
so
episode I would class more in kind of the Boomtown era. I won't necessarily say Love and Monsters because I know that's a bit more controversial than Boomtown, but
yeah,
you know, Boomtown I think similarly is a bad episode that has some good moments. And even Fear Her actually, the last episode I came on, same sort of thing. Bad episode, good moments. I think it kind of is such a perfect example of the Russell era. Every episode, even the shit ones, get these little good moments sprinkled in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he did that on purpose, but it just happens that way. So
I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So today we got Dan with us again. If you couldn't hear, the happy boy Dan.
that's me.
That's Dan.
Woo.
Hello.
And of course, me and Connor are here chatting shit as usual. And yeah, today we're doing Gridlock, Season 3, Episode 3. What a weird one. What a weird one. I don't know. I think what sums up this episode best is Novice Hayne dropping through the roof with a gun. I think that sums this episode up.
She's
great.
back, baby. She's back.
And then the Doctor acting like he fondly remembers her, even though they were literal enemies the last time they saw each other.
Aiden, that scene was very perfect in my opinion.
I hate you. I hate you so much. Oh, fuck.
God's sake.
Oh, man. Yeah. What an episode, which we'll get into very shortly. Connor, I don't know, do you want to count us into the theme song? I don't know how this works. Season 3 is so weird for us. We have no structure. We're just freeballing. Freeballing? I don't know if freeballing is the right word.
Yeah, we're wild gooses. I don't know if you know, Dan, but the quiz from last season sent me and Aiden down a really dark path of rage and confusion. It kind of ruined us. We're wrecked men now. So now when we start the episodes, it's just some random shit. I don't know, Aiden had something really cool last week. He did the whole Twitter thing. That was fun. Chatting shit about Time Victorious is what we should start Season 3 with. About how crap it is every week. Dan, do you want to count us into the intro?
Sure. A 1, a 2, a
50% cat.
Oh, that's a painful. I hate that theme song.
It's funny. I actually listened to it today.
Is it playing now? I can't hear it.
No, he adds it in post
now because we cut it in. Remember, I add it in post.
Oh, I see.
The magic of podcast.
I see. Sorry, I'm just so used to doing a live show. I can't.
I'm still shocked we actually use it. I feel like it's actually it's the GOAT now, but I'm still shocked about how fucking terrible
I think
it
it's
sounds.
nice. It's a nice little homemade. It's good. I think it's what you guys deserve.
I can't even remember when it even
that's
came
a compliment.
in.
That's a compliment.
I remember when it came in. I don't remember what episode we even started with it because it wasn't the start of
from
season
memory,
1.
it was season 1, episode 6. From my
Okay.
memory, I don't know.
Because I randomly
The fans can go
wrapped
back
one
and figure
episode
it
and
out.
it went through it. Yeah, the fans can do that. That's not our job.
That's right. But our job is to review Gridlock, which is the 3rd episode of the 3rd series of the British science fiction television series Doctor Who, which was first broadcast on BBC One on 14th of April 2007. It was written by Russell T Davies and directed by Richard Clarke. The episode is set 5 billion years in the future on the planet New Earth, a planet humanity settled on following the destruction of Earth in the 2005 episode The End of the World. In the episode, alien time traveler, the Doctor, David Tennant, and his new travelling companion, Martha Jones, Freema Agyeman, discover the remainder of humanity on the planet live in perpetual gridlock within the motorway, a highway system beneath the city-state of New York. When Martha is kidnapped, the Doctor races to find her before she enters the dangerous fast lane. The description is so weird as well. Like, can you imagine pitching this episode? Where do you start?
You know, I was thinking, I like to think that Russell was like driving to the studio and just stuck in traffic, and he was like, I fucking hate this.
Literally, even from like a CGI standpoint, like the BBC must have been like, oh god, like it's gonna cost a fortune, like legit.
Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did something that I haven't done before for this show, and I did it just for you guys. But I actually made notes while I was watching the episode. I don't know if you guys do that or if that's.
We do it
so
sometimes.
I made notes all.
Not really.
Yeah, so I made all the way through things I sort of wanted to bring up.
Cool.
And it's a fairly long list, but it's sort of stuff I can say quickly. I don't know if you want me to go through or sort of just bring them up as we go.
List away. List away.
Either way, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll just start from the top. The first thing I wrote on my Gridlock notes. This is like opening scene. I just wrote cat funny, and it's so funny because Doctor Who has the street cred as a British show that it could just like people watch it. But could you imagine if this was like a scrappy show trying to appeal to like channel surfers and they just change the channel to this show and a fucking cat just shows up and a massive face is sitting there. Very, very silly. Then I wrote down, and actually this is sort of a recurring thing. At the start, I like all of the little Martha Rose contrast and the sort of Dr. Martha relationship, but like the dynamic is in this episode especially. I like that they sort of set up Martha to be much different from the get-go, you know. I think that's sort of a good way to, and obviously the way that her character storyline plays out, I mean, that's just sort of, I think, a good thing to get out of the gate. Another thing that I wrote down, and this comes up throughout the entire episode, are they like in fucking Cardiff? Like, why is everyone English in New York? Every single character. I wrote this down through the entire episode. There is not a single American character in this entire fucking episode.
On that note, the steering wheels are on the wrong side of the car as well.
Oh my god! So even fucking Captain Jack is American and fucking face a bow. Oh, he just changed his accent over the years. Like, he must have spent too much time in Britain. Spoilers for anyone who doesn't know.
The biggest plot twist.
Then I wrote down, so the CGI is very bad for the cars, like, and that's just throughout the whole episode. But then it made me wonder, like, this must have just been a real low budget episode. Is that? Hey, do you have any trivia on that, or is
I've got a bit of trivia on it. We have a trivia section later on, but
okay.
I think regardless of like the quality of the CGI, I think just the pure amount of CGI there was, to me, indicates more that it was.
Yeah, and I think the way they used
budget.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Okay, because they were obviously going for they were trying to make it seem larger scale, I think, than the way that they filmed it. And I mean, look, they do, well, this is something I'll bring this up later, but just to do with the aliens in this episode or lack thereof. But then, so I also wrote down, you've got a very clear, one thing I thought was interesting is that it kind of seems to set up this plot of like, oh, the future is dystopian, or the future is like, technology ruins everything, that kind of Terminator or like X-Men future that is sort of doom and gloom, which the episode doesn't actually end up like committing to that theory, but it's sort of an interesting thing for them to set up. And I don't know if they set it up as like a red herring to make you think it's going to be that, and then it's a surprise. But I thought that was kind of weird because they never really commit to that idea.
Yeah.
I also wrote down. So the car guy in the cat guy in the car in the first car, is that like the early draft version of David Walliams? Was he not available?
He's a famous actor. He's a famous British actor. That guy is.
Yeah, he's like a comedian.
I know that's the vibe I got. I got the idea he was obviously someone.
Yeah, he's like a comedian.
The only person
similar to Dave Williams, pretty much.
And he reminds me of the guy from Midnight. You know, the British guy from Midnight. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why, but he's such a, and again, it's such an extremely, like, it's not like David Tennant English where he does like a generic English accent. It's like proper British UK shit, like niche shit.
Yeah.
In New York of all places. He does say Sonny Jim though. I wrote that down. Sonny Jim. My dad always used to say that when I was growing up. So I thought that was a nice little thing. Also, so they mentioned that they were there for fucking 12 years, and they do explain it later. But my first thought was like, how did they shit and shower and like just not go insane over 12 years?
Yeah.
And that's also something I feel like they could have focused on more, is like how do you react to being like, what kind of cabin fever would happen?
Yeah, that's such a cool part of the episode that they do that. And you're like, you don't really get to see that side of it. They say something like, was it like 10? They got like 10 miles in 12 years or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like what kind of hatred that would garner you for the government, if there is any, or like, and I also wrote down later on about, what would happen if anyone died while they were in, or like even of old age, or just killed themselves. Like obviously they don't want to get too dark, but like they didn't really flesh out all the possibilities of this concept.
Yeah.
That, after thinking about it for a minute, are pretty, come to the front of mind. Another thing too, I was like, I did start to think, is this sort of trying to make a comment on overpopulation? And like, are there too many people, or are the poor being exploited by the rich, blah, blah, blah. And then it actually kind of surprised me in the end how it flips that a little bit. So I did like that they set you up to think a certain thing, and then it changes what you actually were thinking. So I did like that. There's the most 2007 joke in this episode.
What's that? Where
the guy says that they have to be on your friends list.
Oh, yeah.
to talk to them. That was so funny. Also, a couple of just futuristic things that I thought. So they have like multiple scenes of them choking because of the air and saying people that die because of the exhaust. And then also they reference a lot like actual driving. Sure. Like, when is this supposed to be set? It's supposed to be set in the future, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Somewhere, at least
it's
far into the future.
It's New Earth. It's after the Earth has been blown up. Like, it's billions and billions of years in the future.
So you would think maybe they would have invented like
electric flying cars,
air polluting cars. Like,
yeah, it's like the cars have gone backwards. Like, do you see that thick
like
smoke that comes out the back of them?
Yeah.
Well, they even say at one point in the episode, we've got self-regenerating fuel. And it's like, so they've got self-regenerating fuel, but it's still dirty ass coal shit. Wouldn't that be some kind of electric? And then also like, you're telling me like, okay, I know self-driving cars are complicated, but these cars are floating and moving like, 2 meters a day, and they can't drive themselves. Like, you have to fucking hit the gas.
Yeah.
Because there's that scene where the guy is like, oh shit, I don't want to miss moving forward. And then I just kept writing about how fucking literally none of them are English, like ridiculous. Also, the cat guy makes a comment about gay marriage. He says something like, "I'm a traditional cat" or something, because the two
the
sisters,
lesbians,
as they call them, are gay married. And I was like, would it really be that big of an issue in like the future? But I don't know if you guys noticed, that guy does reference Jehovah later in the episode. So I think the implication is that he was a Jehovah's Witness, but
who knows?
Who am I to say? Sorry, I'm just reading through here. Oh, yeah. Someone at one point says something about getting lost on the road. And I'm like, it's fucking air, mate. What are you talking about? How are you going to get lost when you're floating? There's no road. Like, someone does say "till the journey's end" as well, so I thought that was maybe a reference without it being a reference.
Yes, season 4 final.
Also, when they're talking about the mysterious beast below, someone says something like, "There's something huge" or something. It's a funny innuendo, and because I'm a child, I thought that was funny.
And crabs.
There is a reference at one point to Janis Joplin. Do you guys know who that is?
No, but I remember hearing that and being like, that sounds relatively significant, but...
Yeah, he said something like, Janis Joplin gave me that coat, and I looked it up, and she was some American singer, and I was like, oh, that's a bit of a weird... That's the only American to be mentioned in this episode, funnily enough.
Set in New York.
Oh, and then also, so I did notice they had 2 random Japanese girls before they even had a single American in the episode, because he jumps through one and they're like these super cliche anime girls.
Hawaii.
And then he jumps through another and they're nude. And I was thinking, yeah, wouldn't most people just sit around nude? Like, you've been there for 12 years. Like, what's the point in wearing clothes? Who are you putting your clothes on for? Like, oh, I made a comment as well, or a note at some point saying that the guy and the girl who kidnapped Martha, to me, that seems like actors who failed their audition for the Doctor and Martha. Like, they both kind of look like the Doctor and Martha, and they're both kind of shit actors. So I don't mean to shit on them. I also thought that he goes through the one where there's like they call her on the phone, the lady who's like a werewolf, and she has these 2 like super white chicks.
Yeah, that's really weird. I wonder what they were trying to say with that.
That seemed to me like a really creepy sex thing. That was a weird.
Yeah, it's like a furry. It's just like a furry suit before furries were a thing.
Yeah, and the white girls are like huddled together, and they're super like skinny and white. I was like, well, is this black or something? Like,
get out, you idiots! Get out of there! And they just fucking die. It's so fucking cringe. Get out!
Oh, and then I also had to give a shout out to the guy who's extremely British, like with the top hat and the suit.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
love this guy.
I'm like, could you guys not get anyone even remotely American? You have to go the most British people ever. I also got to give respect that they fucking had a crab rave. First to have a crab rave before it was a meme. Literally, they show that terrible ass CGI, and I was like, is this crab rave right now?
The mackerel, baby.
The macra.
So, Aiden, could you give us some...
Sorry, macra.
Is the macra a villain? I don't know. Are they
I think they are. I think they're OG.
They're a villain from the Patrick Troughton story, The Macra Terror. It's one of the missing stories, but it was recently animated. I don't know why the fuck.
That's how I know it.
Apparently Russell was just like, oh, it'd be pretty cute to bring back these missing villains. Apparently that's like a quote. He said it would be cute to do it. But like, I don't know why the fuck they did it. And it's bizarre as well, because they're like, oh, they like eat planets and shit
and they
like
never
that.
explain
But
it too. They never explain how or why.
They got to this fucking planet, this new Earth, unless they were already on the planet before the humans came and built the city. But it's a bit weird.
It is a little bit weird. 2 other sort of things I just had a random thought about was, so Martha says turn off the car, but then the car doesn't fall out of the sky. So I'm like, what is keeping the car in the air?
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, there's no aircon. And I'm like, how is it flying if there's no aircon? And again, electric cars. You wouldn't die without the aircon, but whatever.
Right.
Pirates are mentioned more than once. So that makes me think, are there pirates in this like gridlock ass world?
That would be pretty sick, actually.
Well, Novice Hames says it, and one of the other cars that the Doctor jumps through says, "Oh, you're not a pirate, are you?"
More pirates.
That must be something.
That's kind of a cool concept.
I'm calling the
Again,
police.
I feel like in this episode, they reference so many things that could be such a cool thing to show, but for some reason they chose to show this fucking boring-ass traffic jam all episode. The Senate was funny, just because the way they say it, it just...
Why is it funny?
Well, it wasn't funny. Well, the way...
They're all dead, Daniel.
Well, two reasons. So first of all, when they say the Senate the first time, for whatever reason, it reminded me of the way Palpatine says the Senate in Star Wars. And then the second fun fact is all those old fucking geezers as skeletons. That is actually how the American Senate does look currently. So. Oh, and then it turns out, so then I wrote this down. So it turns out fucking coronavirus is like the plot of this story. They predicted
pretty much
basically like coronavirus.
Yeah, I noticed
They
that.
had fucking, what did it say? 100-year quarantine, all this crazy shit. And it says like 24 years after they all die. That's crazy. So
That'll be us.
and
soon.
I actually I know we'll probably talk about our thoughts in a little bit, and I know my notes are going a long time, but I was actually surprised with that. Like I was surprised by how that sort of shocked me with the change in what you're expecting for it to be, and then I also said it really sucks that like Jack's last act is kind of boring.
Yeah, he just opens
like it's
the
a
big
really
doors.
nice thing. Yeah, like it's a really nice thing for him to do, but you're telling me he spent the last fucking like 30 years of his life just chilling, like waiting for the Doctor to show up. That kind of sucks. And then again, I mentioned they really never explain how or why the crabs are there. Martha does get some really nice moments. She got a really nice moment at the bottom when she says something about, how her parents didn't know where she was. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, that was good.
Very good.
And I
Really
thought
good.
it's a great example of how you can give companions nice little moments, even in terrible episodes. Listen up, Chibnall. The music that plays at the climax fucking slaps. I thought that was really good.
Well, Abide
I
with
will
Me.
say...
Abide.
Oh, that's a great tune.
Abide with me.
Whenever the car is crashing, they do the most hilarious zooms and camera shakes, and they do one that's literally they just take the camera and twist it
Yeah,
360 degrees. That made me laugh my ass off.
Filmmaking.
Yeah, literally. I also thought Dave's era is like so horny, like the way all his companions are always like flirting with him and shit. It's fucking David is such a horny.
I don't know
doctor.
which era is more horny though, because the Moffat era is also extremely horny. Like River Song is the horniest character in the fucking program. Like
That's true. But I feel like Rivers. I feel like in David's era, he is like a slut for everyone. Like
Yeah.
David just is such a ladies' man, whereas at least Matt is kind of committed just to River, and River's sort of committed to him, or at least committed to the Doctor, so to speak. But yeah, David just fucks like a maniac, man. I also wrote down like why. I know I mentioned this before, but why is Face a Boat English but Jack is American? I thought that was kind of weird. Oh, and you know what? That last scene with Face a Bo is like such a sweet scene, and it actually genuinely is a great scene, a great ending for Bo. Really great way to set up the finale. And I feel like Russell just said, "Nah, this is the episode. We'll set up the finale." And then I don't know if he does any more throughout the season, but
It's all
he
the
mentions
Saxon
Gallifrey,
stuff.
he mentions the Time Lords,
Yeah.
throughout the season.
like everything. But then the one thing that ruined the scene with that final scene with Martha, with Bo, is that Martha comes in and then she thinks the Doctor's dead because she sees a fucking
Yeah.
skeleton
That literally doesn't make any sense.
on the floor.
I hate that.
And
scene.
it's like, how
does he-
did he die
Yeah.
naked? Like,
Yeah. And he's
what?
like completely decomposed. It's like, what?
Yeah,
It takes
how
like,
long do you think he's been dead?
I think it takes like ridiculous, like 100 odd years for like it to become like that like that.
Well,
bony.
yeah, you would think at that point the clothes would have decayed. Like, it's just that. So unfortunately,
so
that kind of ruined
stupid.
that. Didn't ruin it, but it made you go into that scene being like, what the fuck? And then when she walks in and Doctor's like, oh, that's a cat. It's like,
Yeah.
and then I also, that was pretty much the entirety of my notes. Basically, just that last scene was really, really nice with the Doctor talking about Gallifrey. And one thing I sort of noticed was that, like, I think Gallifrey is so much better as an idea, as something that you don't see, than as something that you do. And I think that obviously, you know, this is way later in the show, but like, I think that's why something like Hellbent doesn't work, because when you show Gallifrey too much, it becomes boring. Like, Gallifrey is better as an idea than it is as an actual like setting or anything. You know, it's better as a memory. And I think that the final scene in this episode really, really gets that across very well. So that's all my notes. I wrote them all down. I know that took a while. Sorry.
It's all right.
But yeah, we can get into the thoughts. That was pretty thorough, obviously. But what did you guys have to say about it?
You go, Connor. You go.
Okay.
You've been quiet.
Okay. All right. I've got notes too, Dan. So
Wow.
fuck
Whoa.
you. I'm here. I kind of wrote them down when you were talking. Okay. Number one. No, I'm joking. I won't be that long. All right. So first of all, the thing that I really like as well is something that they haven't really mentioned before, like in the script, but it's a pretty thing we're kind of used to by now, which is, you know, the whole one past, one future with the start of a new season. So I like how the Doc's like, oh, okay, we're going to take Martha, I'll take you to the past, but I've also got to take you to the future. And you can tell that he's like, as a character, he's like, oh, okay, I actually kind of like this girl, but I don't want to act like I do. So I'll be like, oh, you do get one trip, but you get one trip to the past and one to the future. It's pretty funny though. I will say this because I've watched the Dalek two-parter. Like, they don't mention her getting a trip anywhere else, but like, you know, either way. I love.
Yeah, I was sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but is that sort of that's the second half, like, of that bargain? Hey, the next two episodes, she gets to go into New York in the past, right?
I guess so, because like that's one of my notes. It's pretty cool how, like, you know, this is obviously New York, and then we get to see New York in the next episode. And there's a brief mention of it. She's like, oh, I've always wanted to go to New York, not New York, obviously. So yeah, I guess so. I actually wrote that down. But yeah.
Maybe that's why they didn't do American accents in New York, because they didn't want it to be like 3 episodes straight
of like
Brooklyn accents and shit.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And I suppose
Fair
to
enough.
a degree, like you did mention, Aiden, that New Earth is a new planet, so it doesn't necessarily mean everyone that went to New York would be from the original New York.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
it could be like a and actually, fun fact, the only American accent you hear in the episode is in the next time trailer. So
No, the lady on the TV, she's American.
Salutations.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Salutations.
You're right, actually, with that.
That shit is creepy. I put down, I've always loved the I don't know why, but I've always loved like the setting of like the street they land in. I love how it's like raining and stuff.
very cool.
Another thing though, the whole drugs
like
thing,
that.
it's literally drugs. They're selling drugs.
Yeah.
It's like the whole happy,
different.
which I thought was interesting actually. It's a pretty good commentary
Also,
on it.
what is the rain? Is the rain like the cars dumping all the piss? That's what I thought it must be, right?
Something like that, I
Almost
guess.
like acid rain.
Because I was like, where the hell does the rain come from if the top thing is shut? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's the outside area.
Yeah, they're not on the freeway at that point, remember?
Yeah, they're on the freeway, yeah.
That's right. Sorry, you're right.
That
Yeah.
actually is like the
They
new
say
New York.
they're like.
Yeah. I do like
So
how
how
like
did those people survive though?
they're not, they're all dead. Oh yeah, true. I don't know. I do like how you get to see the original New Earth before it went to shit, but it's literally a shot from the episode New Earth. They didn't even like remake one. It's just the same shot from the episode, which you could always tell if you're not even like a big fan of the show. Like you can kind of just tell if you're like a regular viewer of the show that that's a fucking used shot. I do love how Martha gets stolen. It's like quite out there in original. I think it's a cool idea that you need 3 passengers to go down. And it would make sense that people would be kidnapped. I actually get that, and I think it's a cool thing. It's quite original. And I do love how, like, you can really tell that the Doctor's stressed out because he just took Martha to this planet randomly and has lost her. And I know I memed it,
Yeah.
but the scene where like he shouts her name as the car goes past, I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty
I
pretty
really
memorable
like
scene.
how
Martha.
I really like how it reminds you that like David is actually quite an angry doctor. Like I know that Pete gets all the flack for being sort of the angry old man, but David really had like a real fire to him in a lot of ways that other doctors I don't think had.
He is the time of Victorious.
They've made an entire spin-off expanded universe based off of it.
He's the time of Victorious.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've written down Brannigan. I really liked him. You know, Brannigan's wife is Bill's mum in season 10. Did you guys know that?
No.
The actress or the character?
The actress is Bill's mum in season 10.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
Did you guys not notice that? Okay, fair enough.
No, I didn't.
No, she
Well,
is. She
Bill's
plays Bill's mum.
She's only in like one shot, isn't she? When she just like puts
I
her
think
hand
she's
out or
in.
something?
She's in the pilot. She's in Extremis. And I think that's it. But
Oh wait,
still.
Bill's foster mum or the real mum?
Her foster mum. Yeah,
Oh, okay, right.
the one she lives with.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
that's right.
Yeah. Of course, I got to put down all the cats because I'm a huge cat person. Seeing the little kittens was cute. I do like the police. How that's correct. I do like the police. How like he tries to call the police and it's like we're on hold at the moment. And he's like, "You're the police. Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
There's a mention of the Duke of Manhattan, which we see in New Earth, which I think was cool with a little throwback. Again, like, and I do like as well how like it's Daleks take Manhattan next week. I feel like this season's a lot more like it's a lot more connected. You know, of course we get the whole like, you know, Shakespeare gets mentioned in like the next episode. Like, you know, everything feels a bit more connected. It's like it's quite. You know, it's all together. Of course, the Buy With Me plays. It plays twice, but it's lit every time. It's quite a tearjerker.
Especially how the whole Face of Both thing ties in with the finale. You know, like even that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, by the way, I know you guys mentioned a Buy With Me, but I was talking when I said the score was really good. I was talking about the one that plays when they're flying through the crab thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That one. I don't know the name of that one, but like it's a really hectic score, but it really fucking gets you going. Like
Yeah,
I was actually listening to the season 3 score today, and that song I was like bopping out to.
Yeah, it slaps.
It's got Bo's little bit of score as well at the end there as well, which is. Was really nice.
I've literally that's like my jam in the season 3 soundtrack. I literally wrote that down. I also put the Doctor Falls. Obviously, he jumps down through all the different cars. I thought this scene was so cool. I literally thought it was the coolest thing when I was a kid. I was like, this is fucking sick. I don't know how they filmed this. I thought it was really cool. All the rides as well was really cool. Like Ada said, I particularly like the guy at the bottom. I thought it was pretty funny. We're going to see Novice Haim again, which is nice.
Just on that as well, one thing that made me think it might be a low-budget episode is because there are like barely any aliens in the episode to the point where 2 of the riders are literally just like regular dudes where one is painted white and the other is painted red.
Yeah.
Like that was the extent of like they're aliens.
Yeah.
I've got and obviously Haim comes back, which I think is really cool. We're gonna see Bo again for the last time, and of course, like Aiden said, the Bo theme, which I think it's a bit of a reprise from season 2, which is notoriously one of my favorite tracks of Mario. I think the Bo theme is just beautiful. Also the the aliens, they're pretty dumb. Like, you know when like they look hell small, but then you get to see them grabbing the car and it just fits in its claw. So I did think they did a great job like showing the actual size. Even when the Doctor's looking down and they don't look that big. What have I got here? I do like the scene where like obviously like you said, Dan, when Martha's in the car and she's chatting about her family and stuff. I think it adds a lot to her character, even though she is. I don't mind the scenes where she's like kind of upset about Rose, but I think it definitely gets done a bit too much. And I said to Aiden last week, I think it weakens her character because it makes people miss Rose more and feel like Rose is the better person, which I don't think's fair.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit too much of it, you know.
I think that they don't. I think you're right. I think it bogs down Martha, unfortunately.
I don't mind it though, but a bit too much.
Yeah, I don't mind the moments of it. Like, I think it's kind of sassy, and again, like I said, it's kind of horny.
I like the rebound line. That was good.
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
that was a good line.
Yeah,
That
they
was
mentioned that because the doctor's like, she's like, oh, did you come here with Rose? He's like, oh, yeah, I did. He's like, they heard the word rebound, which I liked. The whole drive up scene I thought was fucking great and quite emotional.
Cool.
The whole drive up!
Yeah.
Drive up! I love that shit.
that was a
obviously
great
Bo
scene,
dies,
but
so,
I
you know.
also... I wondered, like, did anyone, like, die on the way?
I know, that's the thing. Everyone's going at
He
once.
kind of just
And
says,
they're going to fucking
"Let's
hit
go!"
into each other. Like, oh
Everyone's
my
like,
god, we finally got free. Yeah, everyone's going to fucking die. Speaking of dying, obviously Bo dies. I like how, like, you know, the drug took over, obviously, which, you know, again, another comment on drugs. We get the You Are Not Alone, which obviously ties into Professor Yana at the end of the season, who of course is the Master. And I got final scene with a
just
bye
on
with
that,
me, which
by
is
the
fucking
way,
amazing.
The whole "You Are Not Alone" thing. The Doctor says that about Bo as well. So, what does he mean by that? Like Bo's species, or
Did he? I didn't catch that.
I didn't catch that either.
because the Doctor? I think the Doctor says something like, "We're both the last of our kind." Like he actually says that to Bo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so what does that mean? Is that like, is he talking about Bo's species, or like what is that a reference to?
I think it's just like the last of humanity.
Or is that just
pretty
a
much.
throwaway line?
Have you ever seen
Probably,
anyone
yeah.
else that
I mean,
looks
it's like the
fucking
last of
Bo?
humanity.
No, well, yeah, sure. But I mean, we find out later that Bo's just a Jack who happens to be immortal.
Yeah, just gotten so old.
I see that as more of a throwaway line. The Jack being the face of Bo line.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not saying it's not.
Do you not
canon,
think Jack is Bo?
But I don't. I prefer to believe he's not, because I think it's silly and it doesn't make
It's
sense.
interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting.
Interesting.
Because it never
I
gets
always thought it
mentioned
was,
after that. Like, the Doctor
confirmed.
never asks or, like, says anything. And there's, like, nothing in Torchwood that, like, goes
Yeah.
to
It's
hint
just that-
towards it.
It's that one line. So to me, in my
okay.
headcanon, I make it like everyone knows about the face of Bo, and then I guess him and Jack share some character trait. So whenever what was he saying? Like his mates in the army used to call him the face of Bo or something. I don't
It's
know,
the time agents.
Yes.
The time agents,
time
yeah,
agents,
they call him the face of Bo.
So maybe they were just like, you know how I'd say like, I don't know, who's similar to Dan? I don't know, you look like Harry Potter. But people would be like, oh, you look like the
Harry
face
Potter
of
used
Bo
to
or
call
something.
me.
I don't know, like...
Yeah.
And then along the way, people just mix it up. Yeah, okay.
Maybe
okay.
we'll get some confirmation in Revolution of the
13.
Daleks, if that's if that is what it's called. I have no idea. But yeah, that's the issue I've got. I
Surely
just put
a Face of Bo
final scene.
reprise in
Yes,
Revolution.
get that. Get Sir Gunn's version of Bo. Yeah, no, that final scene is amazing. It's actually one of my all-time favorite scenes. I love like how he talks about the war and he actually describes Gallifrey for I think the first time. And he like mentions the skies are gold and the snow on the ground on the golden grass. Like I think it's a beautiful scene with the score obviously, and there's that pan and shot up into the sky and you see all the cars going past. Yeah, good. And of course all the drugstores are closed, so thank heavens.
Thank God.
Drugs are bad, kids.
Because the Doctor doesn't reference that it's his fault, though, does he, in that scene? Like, he doesn't mention that he killed, or, well, you know, the way he refers to it in other episodes.
No, but it's also interesting as well that they mention the Daleks, and of course, in the next episode, one of the Daleks is like, oh, you know, do what the Daleks say, and Martha's like, oh shit, Daleks. Like, that's what he mentioned last episode. It is a bit on the nose, and of course, he mentions the Daleks, and then the next episode's got them in it, and it is New York again. Sure. But again, I like how it's a much more connected season. But anyway, Aiden, you take it away, baby.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at the recording, and we're like 40 minutes into the episode, and I'm yet to give a point.
Legit. Sorry, Aiden.
I'm so sorry, Ed.
No, it's how we run things here. Okay, I don't really have many points, and I think the thing that sums up how I feel about this episode is my first note, which is just in capital letters that says, I just don't understand why it works so well. There's something about this episode that because like I said, I never liked it as a kid, but coming back to it, I was like, fuck me, this is like weird. And it's so silly and there's so many dumb things about it. But then there's also this like massive gravity to it all and like these emotional beats. And like, something about these totally different tones. Fucking Norris Haim coming with a gun upside down. Like, these things all just worked for me somehow. And I just found myself really having a lot of fun with it. Even though there was like some dumb bits, I still found like, upon the whole, it was just such a unique episode that I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stands out the most.
I think, like I said before, I think in a way it is kind of the perfect example of like a Russell episode, but honestly also a Doctor Who episode, like a wacky like sci-fi premise.
Yeah, Stephen Moffat said it's his
like,
favorite of Russell's. So
Yeah.
which is pretty
Really?
cool. Yeah. He
Wow.
Said that, yeah.
And like, let's be honest, like, you know, you go sci-fi, it is wacky, it is weird. Like, that's kind of part of it. I think honestly they lean into it probably because of just the nature of the kind of show it is. But I think this one was a great example of like when you do it when the show itself is at its peak.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. Like it somehow works in a way that maybe doesn't land all the way throughout the episode, but it's just a fun like little zany episode, you know?
Yeah. It's weird. And when you were talking sort of about like the theme or the message that it was trying to say, it got me thinking. And I think for me it's weird because I think it becomes about community in a way. Like and there's lots of different sort of ways of that. Like one, you start with this like community of like these drug dealers and stuff in the bottom. That's sort of like your first sort of thing of like they're just like they're the only people that are down there. There's no people. That's just like a small community of people there. But then you obviously get onto the ships, and there's all these different sort of not so much communities but small groups of people. But then you get this massive like communal thing at the end when they all fly up together. I don't know. It just like it was like this weird theme that I think like wasn't always present, but at parts, and when it was really effective, I think. I don't know. Okay, I have a thought here about I'm with Connor in terms of all those scenes like at the start before they get on the freeway are really cool, like sort of the at the bottom of the skyscrapers sort of thing where you can't even see the sky. And then what pissed me off is that there's like two scenes, one when the TARDIS first lands and two when they steal Martha, and those scenes are like outside. And for me, that just like totally ruined the immersion of it all, of them being in like this city where skyscrapers are like 1,000-foot tall skyscrapers. Like it just sort of took me out immersion wise. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that those scenes were probably the best, like the best on a budget version of like the slums of New York that they could get away, like that they could recreate, you know? Because I agree that I like the feel of it. And I like the idea of these street marts and like also just like, you know, obviously they do it in a kid's show way where she's like, I want to have the forget drug or whatever.
Yeah.
Or she's looking for any drug, and then the chick offers her a drug. But you know, that's kind of obviously their version of like a dingy New York, and I like that vibe. You know, I think you're right that it's not consistent enough throughout. But I like that they tried that. Again, I think, and again, maybe it was just the budget or what, but yeah, it would have been nice if they focused more on that. And I will also just say, you know, you mentioned about the episode in general. I do like what they ended up doing with it, but I just think they did leave a little bit on the table in terms of what they could have chosen to show or focus on, or like even just they could have had a couple of little scenes to show some cool stuff, you know? And I think in a way they ended up going a little bit more of the generic route, but that's, you know, that's not, you can't expect too much obviously, but, I suppose them throwing in that scene at the start with the sort of slums and the selling drugs and all that, you know, it was kind of a nice little look at what that society had become.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Building that world. My only other point is part of Australia's favourite segment, everybody. It's Goof of the Week.
Goof of the Week.
Wow. Dan, did we have Goof of the Week last time you were on here? I think so.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So I got one goof here, and then I have the goofs from TARDIS Wiki to go through. But the goof that I picked up on was that. So when they're in the ships, and I think the cars, and I think they're like, Martha's like, why don't you go in the fast lane? Let's go, let's get out of here. And the guy's like, we can't just go into the fast lane. The steering wheel will lock up. So my question is, how come they can just fly out of the fast lane though? Like, because they're down there and they're like, fucking let's go! And they just like speed out of there. Whereas like, surely there would be like a locking mechanism that would lock them from going up. See what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because the other guy mentions it too. The other guy says, I can't go down to the fast lane. Yeah, so that was something I was like a bit confused. And again, would the cars even be like, why wouldn't they even just drive themselves? It was all a bit because Noah Haim says that it goes on auto, and it's like, so everything's on auto except the people who still have to drive themselves. Like,
yeah.
I've only got one, and it's kind of explained, not really. I mean, it like the doctor says to Brannigan, "I'm gonna need that coat back." But I'm like, how the fuck did he even like know where the doctor is, or like where? How does he know where he is? Like, and he just has it at the end of the episode. It's just back on him, and I'm like, fair enough.
I think they like explained it enough with that line of like, because if he just had it back later on, they didn't say anything, then I think it would be a bit more jarring.
I'm just being a nitpicky bitch. I'll admit it.
Yeah, you're just grasping on straws for a goof.
It's like when Mickey has his like whole suit at the end of
I know.
Still. Now that's a goof.
Oh man, do you have any goofs, Dan?
Yeah, I'm trying to look through my my notes here and see if I did pick up on anything. Yeah, I mean, I guess I mentioned a couple of the whole, like, cars would have probably been electric, that sort of stuff. But that's not really anything, I guess that's sort of what they intentionally put in the script. One thing that might have been a goof just in terms of, when you write a script and when you film an episode, you don't know exactly what the CGI is going to look like.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was... I guess it's not a goof because it sort of worked because I guess they had designated like lanes for the highway, but they show a CGI shot of the entire, motorway, and like there's almost half of it at the top end is like empty.
I noticed that.
And I was just thinking like, couldn't anyone just move up?
Yeah.
And I thought a couple of times the way they portrayed the highway. And again, this is why I say it might have been a goof, because when you write a script, you don't know what the CGI, how it's going to portray it in the CGI. I kept thinking like, it would be so easy, like, because the doctor says something like, can't we just break the rules or whatever? And I just thought to myself, why couldn't anyone do that? Like, couldn't anyone just do a bit of hooning and like, how if you're on the freeway and you could drive in the emergency lane and just say, fuck you guys, I'm going ahead. Like, wouldn't have someone tried that? Like, just drive up above.
I guess, yeah.
So I don't know if that was like a goof, but yeah, that's just something I noticed and I was a bit like,
steering wheel lock.
Yeah, apparently, that's the solution for everything. Oh, sorry, Dan, the steering wheel would lock.
So a couple of production errors via TARDIS Wiki. The first is the one I mentioned with the seat, the driver's seat steering wheel being on the wrong side. And then
that's great.
This is a small one. When the doctor opens the bottom door of the businessman's car, the computer voice does not say capsule open as it did in all the other cars he passed through to reach the bottom.
I see.
Ah, okay.
A small one.
I see.
Yeah. Anyways, boys, that brings us
editing faults
to Australia's second favourite segment. And Dan, I think this is a new one for you. Behind the scenes! Wow, what a fun segment. Okay, guys.
Is this 50% podcast confidential? What is this?
That's right. That's what they call us. Okay. All right.
Da-da, Fresh Prince of Da-da.
Yeah, I know. I need to get my bearings. There's so many big paragraphs on the Wikipedia. I do read them beforehand, so I'm not just like.
Oh, that's okay. No.
We are the Fresh Princes of Da-da.
I
did write at one point. and this was a note that I didn't read out before, but Martha definitely gets hit with a couple of bruh moments in this episode.
Bruh.
The one in particular that I was referencing was, at the end when the doctor seems sad and Martha's like, why are you sad or whatever.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, and she says, when he says you're not alone, what did he mean? And the doctor's like, I don't know. And she says, but you have me. And the doctor's like, I didn't mean that, bro.
No.
And it's like, damn, Martha, you're getting hit with the bro moment. You're getting rejected, bro.
All right, I'm
that was sad.
I'm gonna spit some facts. Gridlock was filmed alongside the Lazarus Experiment. The episode uses some of the largest and most complex CGI effects of the series so far. The motorway was entirely constructed out of CGI, aside from a single car set.
Wow.
It was the first time an episode was set inside a CGI world. Will Cohen, the Mills visual VFX producer, revealed in Radio Times that the films Blade Runner, The Fifth Element, Star Wars, and specifically the planet Coruscant from Star Wars influenced the look of New York, which you can definitely see a lot of.
Yeah, you can see Coruscant,
Yeah. So the production team shot for 4 days in the 6 foot by 6 foot car, which Davies called a nightmare because not many camera angles were available and only one crew member could adjust the props and lighting at a time. In addition, smoke was generated around the car so it would blend in with the CGI smoke from the CGI cars. The small set was intended to benefit the actors as they would feel claustrophobic. So that's a little bit of fun for you there. Other than that, there's not much behind the scenes goss about this episode.
Where's the tea, Aiden? Where's the tea?
There's some episodes, like last week, Dan, there was some serious tea.
Oh yeah? Behind the scenes?
Yeah, because the writer is like...
He wanted naked Dr. Bang Bang.
Yeah, I think he's transphobic, but I don't like to say that because I don't know it. I shouldn't say it if I don't know it's
Wait,
true.
what do you mean?
Maybe
Naked
he is,
Dr.
but
Bang
I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't throw that out.
I'm pretty sure Dylan told me he was.
Maybe he is, but
what was the episode
look
before
into
this?
it before you say it on
Shakespeare
air,
Code. Yeah, legit. That's why I didn't want to say it. That's why I didn't say it last week.
Yeah, fair.
What was the episode before this?
Shakespeare Code.
Okay, so what was the tea? What happened?
So when the Doctor and when the Doctor and Martha are sat in a room and they're like sleeping together, and they're like having some chit chat. Apparently, Gareth originally wanted to write it so that the Doctor would strip down naked in the scene, and that's
something he never ever does though.
What do you talk? You clearly don't understand Doctor Who, Daniel.
Oh, of course. The only ever time I can recall that happening is when Matt gets naked in 11th Hour. And honestly, even that is a bit out of character, if you ask me.
Well, even Russell, who's a very horny writer, stood up for it and was like, no, we should not be doing this.
Yeah,
no. That is weird.
Here you go, transgender controversy. Told you.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Connor getting up the facts.
Yeah, it says on the 1st September 2017, Roberts posted on his Twitter account, I love how trannies choose names like Paris, Chelsea, etc. It's never Julie or Bev, is it? Later the same day, he wrote, it's almost like a clueless gay boy's idea of a glamorous lady, but of course, it's definitely not that. Oh dear.
That's very
He said, I don't believe in
spicy.
gender identity. It's impossible for a person to change their sex. So yeah, it's got transphobic controversy.
So
thank you, Dylan.
Are you saying that was clear in the episode, or was that just like a
just
fun?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched the rest of his yet, but yeah,
right.
He's a bit of a JK, which is pretty ironic because in the episode he writes good old JK.
Hey, those transphobes got to stick together, man.
Oh God.
I will say one thing that was really funny about about this episode, and it's like it's easy not to think about it, but I was thinking, you know how I think what's his name, Mulligan or whatever the guy's name is, Brannigan, him and his wife. So he's a cat man, and his wife's a regular lady, we presume, but their kids are just straight up kittens. Like, wouldn't they be some kind of cat human hybrid in some way?
It doesn't really make sense.
Because you would. And then also, does that imply that Brannigan's parents is like a human and a cat just who fucked.
You're asking the right
a little bit
questions,
of
Dan.
interesting insinuation there. So
Yeah, it's whack.
Thank you, Dan.
That's why we're here, really.
that's why you bring me on. That's why you bring me on to bring up the real important shit.
I got
Aiden, you got any more trivia for us?
that's it for trivia.
Oh.
Like I said, it's like it's pretty quiet this week. But yeah, a couple of small points from me. One, I dig the Senate set. I thought that was cool. I like the vibe of it, how it just felt kind of huge.
It actually was kind of like in that last Star Wars film. You know, when they show all of Palpatine's lads.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I hate that movie so much.
I'm just saying, it is.
Don't remind me of it, Dan.
It reminded me of that. Well, I didn't. The episode reminded me,
God.
so now you have to be reminded as well.
Goodness me. And the last thing is I always like to kind of draw a little bit of attention to the director of the episode, because I think in these first 10 seasons of the show, with them not being properly credited on the title sequence, they kind of get overlooked a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
And this week's director
Interesting.
is Richard Clarke, who, this is his directorial debut for Doctor Who. Next, he directs The Lazarus Experiment.
Dick.
And then he also comes back for season 6 for The Doctor's Wife and Night Terrors.
Ooh.
So, pretty big
I
range there.
It always blows my mind
I
how
really
random
enjoyed
episodes they
this
do.
episode.
They always do such random... It always blows my mind, hey, when you hear, like, directors... Like, we had one last week, Dan, who did Shakespeare Code, and I think he doesn't come... He did, like, obviously, this in season 3, and he doesn't come back until season 10. It's so whack.
So,
like,
he does
Really?
that. The guy from last week did Smith & Jones, Shakespeare Code, Human Nature, Family of Blood, and then, just takes a fucking gap decade, and then comes back in 2017 for
crazy.
Pete's last season.
That's so weird.
Crazy.
And just with Richard Clarke, Connor, I know you're a Life on Mars fan. He directed episode 3 and 4 of season 2.
Hell yeah, that was bad.
I will say,
better.
just general things I noticed watching this episode, and this is something I've always known about season 3, but it's kind of an interesting thing. And Aiden, you might have noticed this more, but I always thought that season 3 has different cameras to season 2. I feel like they got an upgrade.
It looks so much cleaner
in some way. Like, and I don't just mean like the camera angles, whatever. Like, I just literally mean the raw camera quality. Like,
just looks better,
the dynamic range, like
But-
everything to do with the technical side of the cameras.
Yeah, dynamic range
and also
is
the
definitely
Doctor's hair
a
is
big
different.
thing with it. That looks different. You can see a lot more, and the blacks aren't as blacked out. But like,
Yeah, and in season 1 and 2, like anytime there's like even a slight light on someone's face, it's like fucking White City.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like they're in heaven. Like, it's
like
fucking so
I
white.
know I mentioned on this show before. I was like reading a thing where they're like, "Oh, don't you love how in season 1 and 2 they had that fairy tale filter over it?" And I'm like, "Bruh, I think it was just shit cameras." Like,
Yeah, literally, it wasn't a filter. They just were not working with good equipment.
we're also saying from The Runaway Bride onwards, which is when the show started to look cleaner.
Yeah.
Is when they moved to a new like soundstage and a new sort of production place. So
interesting.
I don't know if maybe they upgraded a lot of stuff with that. But
Well,
upon the whole,
you can tell that.
upon the whole, season 3,
Yeah.
I know the CGI isn't always great, but it feels like there is a lot more budget in season 3 than the past 2 seasons. They really put it up. I'm with Connor. Me and Connor have both watched the Dalek 2-parter because we're doing that review in a couple of days. And in that episode as well, like you could tell it's got a pretty big budget. So all 5 of these episodes so far that I've seen, 6 if you include Runaway Bride, not one of them feels to me like they kind of skimped out on the budget a little bit, you know?
Yeah, like I will say that the obviously I haven't watched all the episodes like you guys recently, but I will say from memory, season 3 has like good costumes as well, like the Smith and Jones, the Jadoon, is a very good like costume design. And I will also say I'm more going from this episode, but again, just from what I can remember. And look, you could argue for better or for worse, but they obviously feel confident with the CGI enough to do like proper shots and scenes with the CGI in them, Whereas I feel like in the first...
Like they said, this is the first CGI world.
Yeah, in the first 2 seasons, they only really used it for like a cutaway shot or like a very occasional CGI thing. Whereas I feel like, or, you know, I could be mistaken, but I feel like as they got into season 3, they got a bit more confident with the, not just the budget first of all, but then also like the quality of it. Again, for better or worse, because it didn't really age that well. But yeah, it feels like they felt at least as though they had more of a capability. So yeah, I thought that was. I
think even in the rest of the season to come, I can't really think, other than Blink, could possibly be one of the cheaper episodes. It was a time saver. That's why they didn't have David and Martha in it. But like,
well, I mean, you save money by not paying the main actors.
Yeah, you save that money there, and also like just there isn't actually anything that would be extremely expensive in that episode. But every other episode of the show, like even the Lazarus Experiment, which feels like maybe a cheaper episode, the main villain is like full CGI and shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
And then you have
but that would add money to the budget.
Yeah, and then Human Nature, Family of Blood is like so heavy production design. That shit would
the costumes in that episode is like crazy.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to rewatch that episode.
I'm keen. I'm so fucking keen.
I will say though, boys. So this time next week. Wait, no, sorry. Yeah, this time next week. I believe this time next week it is Doctor Who Day. It's the 23rd. So.
Oh yeah.
I think
November,
that's when we
wow.
get the trailer. I think we'll have a trailer by next week.
I think so as well. Yeah.
And it's also worth noting
For
that season
Revolution of the
13
Daleks.
is filming,
and
we will get it next year, which is cool.
Oh, true. I always forget that we should talk
Next
about
year.
the news a little bit on here.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning it. Yeah, it'll be next year. They said probably around September.
So
I
do you
think,
guys
they
think?
said.
Do you guys? So obviously I don't want to preview the next episode here for the viewers at home, but do you guys think the Revolution of the Daleks will be a better Dalek story than the Dalek two-parter, Daleks in Manhattan?
No, not at all.
I mean, I don't think Daleks in Manhattan is a great story, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think there's a high chance it could be better than it. But
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that obviously because obviously we haven't seen it yet. It's pretty unfair, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say. But yeah, we'll probably have a trailer.
Has Jodie only done one
week,
Christmas?
New Year's.
Yeah. Sorry.
She's done one New Year's. Yeah, it's her second. It's her second New Year's. Yeah, so.
We'll her second like special that's not part of a series.
Yeah, we'll probably have a trailer for it next week, so that'd be cool. You get to hear me and Aiden talk about our thoughts on that, and of course, season 13 is filming, so I think whatever little bit of information we get, we'll try and give it to you. But I think a lot of this stuff's going to be shot on a soundstage just because of COVID, so I doubt we're even seeing any pics.
Yeah.
I would love if they did, and I know COVID media is a little, probably will be overdone in the next few years, but I would love to see like a Power of 3 style episode,
right?
Like chronicling.
Knowing Chip, he'll bring it up. Probably, I reckon he'll bring it up.
I'd actually kill myself. There's nothing I would want less than.
I reckon they'll do it.
What, than a full coronavirus episode?
I genuinely reckon they do. I will.
I want to escape from this fucking shitty life we live in.
No, but what I mean is like if they did a COVID episode where it was like, what if COVID hit, but you had a time machine, and you could have fun with it. I don't know. Maybe that's too heavy of a topic, but
Aiden comes home and he's like, I can't wait to watch Doctor Who and forget about the coronavirus. And he turns it on and it's fucking coronavirus.
Doctor Who and the virus of doom.
No, I reckon they'll at least mention
solve the corona,
because the show's really good at keeping up with what year it is. Like in the new year, in Resolution, they're like, it's 2019. So they shoot it knowing when they're going to release it. So I reckon they'll at least mention it. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, who knows?
Probably.
The trouble, though, is that if they're filming it now, they have to take the gamble of whether or not... I guess they could just set it in 2020, but then they take the gamble of, do we say it's 2021 and we pretend that COVID's still going, predicting that it's still a thing?
Right.
Or do they think that by the time it airs, COVID will be over and people won't care about it anymore? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird times.
Yeah. Okay, boys. What's your review for Gridlock? What's your rating out of 10?
Do you guys have a rating, or can I go?
You go.
I've got one, but you go first.
Oh, okay. I'll give this one I've been so harsh on this show, so I want to be consistently harsh. But I don't want it to seem like I don't like the show.
It felt like you were harsh on this episode.
Yeah, I feel like you came on because you really liked it. And then you just kind of shouted.
Yeah.
No. Again, I always thought you guys invited me onto episodes that were bad. So
no, to be fair, you said to us, I want to come on for Gridlock. We had you set for 42.
I know, but that's why I suggested it, because I thought it was like a funny.
Oh.
I don't think it's bad.
I
just think it's
a bad one, but yeah, okay.
I think Gridlock's just a funny episode because it's such in my opinion, it's probably the most like bottle episode of season 3. I know you have Blink, but Blink has such a good concept that I think it escapes the bottle sort of.
Gridlock is so unbottled.
What do you mean?
It's a bottle episode.
Well,
one setting, pretty much one setting for the whole episode. Come on, like.
Oh, okay. If you want to look at it in that sort of bottle aspect, sure.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's also, if you're thinking like narrative bottle-wise, it's like the biggest episode for the whole show other than the finale. Like,
do you mean because of the bow thing, or?
Well, it brings back Bo, it brings back New Earth, it brings up Gallifrey, it brings up the You Are Not Alone stuff. There's like so much stuff in it.
Sorry, I'm with Aiden on this one. Sorry, Dan.
It's like the biggest episode till Utopia.
Sorry, Dan.
That's fair enough. I just feel like so much of the episode is like just set in, and I know he goes through different carts, but so much of the episode is just set in like a box, like you know. And so the way I've always thought of this episode, and I guess honestly, even still, like the way I think of it is like it does have really good moments, and again, I really do think that's part of what makes Russell's era so good. But you know, it just to me it does the whole of the episode doesn't necessarily shine as bright as a lot of the other Russell episodes do. That's just my opinion. I'd probably, in the name of being harsh, because I've always been harsh on this show, I'm going to say 5 out of 10, which I think is the highest rating I've given on the show. What did I give Boomtown? Did I give that a 6 or a 7?
Into my notes.
Fucking hell.
Dan, you gave Fear Her a 3 and Boomtown a 6.
Okay, if I gave Boomtown a 6, then I'll still give this a 5. I would prefer Boomtown to this. I'm going to be honest.
Wow.
I'm sticking with my gut. It's really hard because I don't know. I guess the Face of Bo scene and the last scene probably would put it up to a 6, but I feel like those two scenes are so separate from the plot of the episode. I know Face of Bo ties directly into the plot, but I feel like that Face of Bo moment you could have slotted into any episode. And I mean, the Doctor telling Martha about Gallifrey, you could slot that into any episode. You know, that doesn't have to be this episode. But, you know, judging it just on the plot and like, yes, Brannigan's a cool character, but the people who kidnap Martha, they're not really interesting at all. The monsters are not even really any monster. Like they have no, it's just Crab Rave is the monster for this episode. So I'm going to give it a 5. I know that's harsh, but I did have a lot of fun with this episode. But it's just not necessarily my favorite of season 3. Let me put it that way.
Connor, what's yours?
I'm going to give it a 7.75. I think it doesn't
really deserve... 7.75.
I don't think it deserves an 8, but I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun watching it. I came home from the city and like watched it at like 2 a.m. Best experience ever. Emotions really packed. Some great character moments with the Doctor and Martha. The score is beautiful. It's great seeing Novice Heyman and Bo again. The You Are Not Alone scene sent me as a kid. I think it's a really great build up to the final. And the final scene itself is beautiful. And I love the beginning as well. I think it's a really cool, fresh take on like a new season. And I think it's really good. Didn't in my head deserve an 8 per se because of the little things here and there. Kind of what Dan said. But yeah, I'll go a 7.75. Thank you. Plus, I'm trying to be a bit more harsh, I think.
I am going in with... just behind you, Connor, at a 7.5. I never thought I'd give it that.
Interesting.
I never was a big fan of it, but like I said, to me it was just so weird, but worked and was so effective in what it wanted to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Facts.
Cool.
Yeah,
did it.
I would have to. Yeah, I mean,
Or not.
No. I don't mean. Sorry, I don't mean to disagree. I'm just to stick by my 5. I would say I hear you guys, but just for me personally, I got to slightly disagree. I think they could have done a bit more with the concept, but it's fine. It is what it is. And I will say I definitely enjoyed the episode. But yeah, like even in season 3, I could name other episodes that I enjoy more, like Smith and Jones. I do like the whole family of blood, or what is it?
Yeah.
The one where the doctor forgets who he is. Blink, obviously. The whole
Well done.
3-part finale, if we can call it that.
Our last question for you then is what's your season 4 episode gonna be that you're gonna demand to be on?
Ooh,
Good question. Because season 4 kind of slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Fires of Pompeii.
Oh, I don't know. Nah.
It sucks though.
Maybe.
I love
Okay,
Fires of
wait.
Pompeii.
No.
I hate it.
No, Unicorn of the Wasp. It's got to be
Gareth
Unicorn of the
Roberts.
Wasp. If I'm going to be
Roberts. There you go.
on it, even if I'm on 1, then I got to be on Unicorn of the Wasp.
Gareth Roberts style.
Because that episode is, so, in my opinion, it's so goofy, but it does have its moments. I got to say, so that episode's that's always a funny one. So
Fair enough.
That's it. That's if we continue the trend of me being on shit episodes. I just want the record to show I did want to be on Blink, but I get it. You've got a more prestigious guest.
To be fair,
That's
Xavier
right,
did ask first, so.
He did.
Plus,
No, that's
we
fair.
actually talk now.
exactly. I
We're
was late
friends.
to the
We're
game
friends
on that.
now. We literally were
I
talking
know,
today.
Dave was telling me.
I know, we talked today. I can't believe it. That's such a wacky crossover.
No, I'm glad. And look, I think I probably my perspective probably is better suited for a shitty
exactly.
episode. So I'm totally fine to be involved with those. But yeah, season 4, if I'm only on 1 in season 4, it's got to at least be
That's a good one.
Unicorn the Wasp. If I'm on more, then hey, we'll have to see.
There you
We'll
go.
have to see.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much
Dan.
for joining us, Dan. Connor, I don't know why I stuttered when
Thanks
I said
for
your
having
name.
me.
I was just so scared. So scared of you, Dan. Thanks so much
Scared
for
of me?
coming on. Yeah, I stuttered. I don't know why. Connor.
You're about as scared as Russell is of me giving his episodes harsh reviews.
Yeah, he's fucking spooked.
I'm sorry, Russell. I do love the show. It's just
Whatever you say. Connor's gone for his ruler
How did you know, Aiden? How'd you know?
because I edit the podcast every week.
This will
and I
be
have to
sold for
listen to
money
you
in the future,
banging
Aiden.
your fucking ruler. No, it won't. Connor, count us in for the theme song. Dan,
Alright.
you just sit there and smile as you don't know the words, you fake fan.
I'm like Mario Gore right now. And a 1, and a 2, and a skiddy dilly do. It's
Aiden's
Aiden and Connor's podcast. They're doing Doctor Who reviews. Doing Doctor Who reviews.
Ba-ba-da-bum.